In the year 1937, the McDonald family moved to Hollywood, California, where Maurice and Richard McDonald were working for motion picture studios. Their father, Patrick, had a food stand called the Air Dome, where he sold hot dogs, and he had an all-you-can-drink orange juice item on the menu because, well, 1930s people really need their orange juice. Maurice and Richard were getting really sick and tired of working for the studio, so one of them was like, hey man, you want to open up a restaurant? It's not like we're going to sell it to a dude named Ray and become one of the biggest fast food industries in the entire world at a later date about 19 years from now, right? Right? And the other was like, yeah, sure, I totally dig the idea of us being a place that no one's ever going to pay attention to. With that being said, McDonald's barbecue opened to the public. Most of the items on the menu at the time were barbecue, and then the customers got all sick of the barbecue stuff, and so then the McDonald brothers got sick of the barbecue stuff too. So then they resorted to only selling hamburgers. I mean, I'm not complaining or anything, because there were a lot of decent stuff on the menu at the time. I mean, it would have been a real treat to be alive at this time, you know, with the pure beef hamburger, the tempting cheeseburger, the chicken the chicken McNuggets were not a thing at the time, even though they would be about 60 years from this time period. This hamburger industry started off as a drive-in hamburger place because drive-thrus weren't a thing at the time due to lack of technology. Then they realized a few years later that if they started preparing the food ahead of time using infrared lamps to keep the fries warm, everything would be much easier to serve during rush hour. Talk about lack of technology. Then a guy named Ray Kroc sees Richard and Mac and is like, hey guys, I have a way to make your business better. Want to make me franchise agent? After all, I am the inventor of the milkshake making machine, and I sell them for a living, and I dropped out of high school at sophomore year because school for losers. And I definitely don't want to be a loser, he says with no prediction that he'll become the founder of McDonald's in the future. So Mac was like, well, I don't know. It's probably best not to give our money to random strangers that we've never met before, and a random stranger that didn't even finish school. Then Kroc offered to pay them 0.5% of all future sales, and so the McDonald brothers were like, it's a deal! And would you look at that, McDonald's is still around in 2018 because the McDonald brothers gave their money to a random stranger that they've never met before. You know, maybe I should try this, even though the last time I gave my money to a random stranger, I ended up getting my bank account hacked, I got my credit card information leaked, and then all sorts of horrible things happened. I got broke, I had to go get more money, and then... Fine. I'll stop. So with a few bucks and a hell of a lot of trust from the McDonald brothers, Kroc began putting the restaurant in many different locations. If you consider 228 a lot compared to the amount of locations we have today in 2018, Mac and Richard put up $2.7 million for Kroc as an offer to keep the chain going since Kroc was using their last name as the restaurant's name to appeal to the folks more, since I'm pretty sure nobody wants to buy burgers from a place called Kroc's. I definitely wouldn't buy burgers from a place called Kroc's. Copyright. He wasn't happy with the fact that Mac and Richard wanted to keep the original location of the original restaurant because McDonald's was at its best year, 1960, making $56 million a year, and he figured it would look bad for his image considering he was taking all the credit for the burger joint the brothers had originally established. So then Richard was like, fine, we'll demolish the place. Just give us credit when you talk in front of millions of people about how you became the founding father of an establishment that was supposed to be ours. And Kroc didn't do that. Instead, he bought the franchise for $2.7 million and let the franchise grow from there. And you know, the franchise might have had a few crummy years in its long running, but was able to pick up the pace with a few additional items to the menu like the Big Mac and the drive-thru and play place and the quarter pounder. Drive-thru and play place, yeah, those are great menu items. Then they decided to become a breakfast joint and added the Egg McMuffin because people are starting to hate burgers now because that's all they ever sold. Hey, guess what? We want to appeal to kids more. Not like Ronald McDonald was in an attempt to do just that and failed miserably, so let's add chicken nuggets to the menu. Unfortunately, Ray Kroc wasn't around much longer to see them because on January 14th of 1984, he passed away. He also wasn't able to see the McFlurries that were added in 1995. Rest in peace. Let's skip ahead to 2018, where Maisie gets hired at this very place that we all know and love. Unfortunately, he ended up getting hired there for cleanup crew instead of customer service, like he was told he was going to be doing there if he got hired. About 9 shifts in, and the job was already too tedious to continue, so what does he do? He quits the job a month later. And now the restaurant he works at doesn't have anybody to sweep the floors or wipe the tables down or clean poop out of the play place, so then the ratings start to go down, and the owners get really confused, and then they have no choice but to fire the rest of the crew. And then another chain reaction happens, and then the staff at other locations start getting fired too, until the franchise finally doesn't have any employees to keep going, and so finally closes down in 2026. Yep, it was so decent until Mate killed it off. Rest in peace.